Hello, and welcome to the Millennial Nutritionist podcast. I'm Isla Garcia, master's degree of nutrition science and registered dietitian, and I'm going to make weight loss realistic, sustainable, and uncomplicated for your busy lifestyle. On this podcast, me and my team of registered dietitians will decipher the latest nutrition research, dissect fad diets, and discuss social media trends for you so you can feel confident knowing what to eat to achieve your health goals. Research suggests that most weight loss programs aren't successful, but my experience has taught me that this is not because the participants aren't committed. It's because those diets are designed by non-nutrition professionals and center around severe restrictions. We are here to provide the facts about the science of weight loss so you can have the success you want and continue living your best life. Welcome back to the Millennial Nutritionist podcast. This is Isla, your CEO, founder, and host of our podcast. Today, we are going to interview another client. It's actually a recent client of mine, Hannah. I'm going to let you introduce yourself, but thank you so much for joining us today, Hannah.
Thanks for having me. My name is Hannah. I live in Raleigh, North Carolina. I moved around a lot in my life. I grew up in Colorado. I lived in Ohio for a while, but recently moved to Raleigh, so it's been awesome. Go Tar Heels. I love snowboarding, rock climbing, running, anything outside, painting, drawing, stuff like that. And recently I've gotten interested in nutrition, so happy to
Fun.
be here.
Yeah. So, I thought it was so funny because I'm from Raleigh, and then I think you started working with me after I moved. But it's
Mhm.
always really fun, at least like when I'm aware of the restaurants in the area and stuff like that. So that was really cool to be able to connect with you on that. But tell us like what your like living situation is like, just because it's, I think, helpful for when we start talking about like struggles with weight loss. Like, do you live by yourself? Do you live with your family? What goes on there?
Right now I live with my parents,
Mhm.
and I was on my own in Ohio for the last 5 years, and then moved to Raleigh to be closer to family, so staying here until I find my own place, but yeah, live with my family right now.
And we can kind of dive into your overall weight story. So maybe like take us up to speed from what happened from before I started working with you up until when I started. So like, what do you feel like you struggled with, I guess, before we were working together?
I'm really into running and, like, endurance sports. I grew up doing a lot of that, so I always knew that nutrition was a big part of that and also just life in general, so I was interested in it, but never really found a good strategy for, like, overall
Mm.
lifestyle. I can relate to people on both ends of the spectrum where I've gone through phases of being super restrictive and then like overeating at times. Yeah, I was just looking for something that would be sustainable and like take care of my body over the long term.
You like it seemed like it's like you had all the motivation you kind of knew what to do, but I think like so many other people, I feel like you kind of struggled with like what that balance looked like without having to be like all or nothing. Do you feel like that's kind of what you're saying too?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then what kind of led you to want to like reach out and work with us?
I started following you on Instagram, and I had actually taken one class in college about intro to dietetics or something, and I don't even know why I was there, but what I got from that class was how hard it was to become a registered dietitian.
Mhm.
And I didn't end up like majoring in that or anything, but I had a lot of respect for like that field. And just the difference between like a registered dietitian and a
Mm.
nutritionist, like online or whatever.
Mhm.
So I knew like if I needed to get help in that category, then like you guys were the ones to go to. And that was a big need in my life. So um I thought about it for a while, but ended up signing up, so it's good.
That's awesome that you were able to know because a lot of people don't know, and I'm not a huge stickler for it because I don't know, I never want to make other people feel uncomfortable, but it is an important differentiation that
Yeah.
like registered dietitians know a lot more about like the overall science behind things and what really matters and what doesn't. And I'm glad that you were able to already recognize that. That's awesome and seek that out. What were weight loss efforts like before you started working with us? Like what did you think you needed to do to lose weight?
Yeah, it was kind of all over the place. I tried a lot of different juice cleanses and like 10-day lemonade cleanses, which I guess worked for some people, but for me, it was like I would just feel super depleted and like bad afterwards and then end up overeating. So, yeah, it was just kind of a roller coaster of like not knowing what I was doing. But I had the motivation. It just like didn't know what I was doing. So
Yeah, and then why like, how did you feel when you were doing those things, or why don't you feel like those things worked out for you for the long term?
I guess they just weren't sustainable.
Mhm.
And I also realized that I had a lot of emotional eating too, where um, just throughout the program, I became more aware of that. And just being aware of that helps a
Yeah.
lot. And just and the 6-step program that you've come up with made it so easy to follow. So yeah.
Yeah, because that is the thing that I try to tell their clients too. It's not like these like restrictive efforts in a sense don't work. Like they will cause you to lose weight, but they don't really address like why you can't stick with it. And that's what really we really try to do. And I know with you, I want to definitely get into it later, but the emotional
Yeah.
eating I think was one of the biggest pieces for you, or just like feeling super hungry and then like actually just wanting to eat, but then like not knowing where that like limit was there. And so I'm glad that we were able to address that together. Now, so when you started with me, was anything surprising from the beginning? Like we started with tracking, like how did that go? Or are there any surprises from the get-go?
Yeah, I was kinda nervous for tracking just because I didn't know how to use the app or anything, but once I figured that out, it was really cool because I realized, like, I was eating a lot more than I thought, and then certain foods had a lot more calories than I realized.
Mhm.
Like, I was making almond flour pancakes and brownies, which I love, but, like, almond flour has a lot of calories, and I didn't really realize that,
Mhm.
so just seeing what has calories and then what doesn't, and then it was really eye-opening too, seeing, like, how little calories vegetables have.
Mhm.
So, like, if I was super hungry, I could just, like, throw in a bunch of vegetables, which was nice.
Yeah, that's awesome that I mean, that's the whole reason that we get people to track is so that you are
Mhm.
able to learn and then like you can make those decisions later on. And I remember you eating those brownies because I was like really in shock. I was like, there's no way those are that many calories. Like they were a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was the almond flours, or I don't know if it was, like, the sheer volume, but yeah, I was surprised in the beginning too, because sometimes, like, clients will tell me, like, what things are like in the very first session, like, this is before anybody starts tracking, I'm like, I don't really know." Like, there's no red flag to me to be like, "Oh, well, this is what's wrong," but then when I looked at your diet, I'm like, "Oh, you're just eating a lot of food, like, a lot of
Right.
high calorie foods," but also it was healthy
Mhm.
foods, but it seemed like you were just eating a lot of calories in, like, yeah, like, those brownies and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So the first step was it sounds like to just like start understanding like where the calories were coming from for you. Um what do you feel like the experience kind of was with working like with a one-to-one coach? Like had you ever done that before, or if you hadn't, like was anything surprising with that process?
Yeah, it was really awesome, because I could like, we met once every 2 weeks, and I could ask, like, specific questions, and you really helped me figure out, like, problem solving for my lifestyle instead of just, like, "This is my plate, and, like, do it," you know? So, it really helped me solve, like, individualized problems that I was facing, and yeah, and just the 6 steps made it so easy to follow. I could tell that you guys put a lot of thought and research into that, and so yeah, and I also saw like how certain steps I already had a good handle on, and then certain steps were like, "Whoa, that's really what I need to work on," like the overall calorie amount.
Mhm.
Like, my calories were, like, way too high, but I
Mhm.
was eating, like, a pretty balanced
Right.
diet, like, I didn't really have to change the foods I was eating, it was just, like, instead of a cup and a half of beef, maybe do, like, a half cup, you know?
Exactly. Yeah, I feel like I agree. I noticed that too, but you're saying that it sounds like before you like really just like looked at what you were eating through the tracker in your head, like you thought you were eating like pretty healthy, which I agree. I think you were. But
Yeah.
then like seeing all the calories, then it made sense to you, like what you could actually cut back since you had like the tangible data. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, for sure.
Do you have any other examples of what you remember you had to cut back on? I remember it was the brownies, and yeah, I think like the beef, or was there anything else that you realized like, oh, I go over a lot on that, or what did you have to change to meet with the calorie goal?
I guess, like, just realizing how many times a day I was eating. Like,
Mhm.
if I had a different work schedule, sometimes I would skip breakfast and then have a bigger lunch, or, like, if I worked earlier, then I would have breakfast. So, just being aware of, like, if I'm eating 3 meals a day, then bring the calories down a little bit.
Mhm.
But if I sleep in and, like, have I can have a slightly bigger breakfast. So just, like, knowing how many times I'm eating and then, like, being aware of, like, the high calorie foods and just double checking that if I know I'm eating a higher calorie food. So, yeah.
You, like, had to think about, like, how your day was because you didn't have, like, the same type of day every day. I do remember that too. You had, like, a bunch of, like, jobs that added up, and then I think you were in school
Mhm.
or taking classes too, and so you really just had to think through each day, and it sounds like planning, but then the tracking helped you to, like, still see how everything was gonna fit together. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, for sure.
Do you love our realistic approach on nutrition but want to dive a little bit deeper? Let me tell you about the Millennial Living Membership Program. This was designed to help you stay motivated and inspired no matter what health journey you're on. We develop monthly nutrition and fitness challenges with prizes you can win if you stick with it to help motivate you through every month. To inspire you, we upload weekly recipes with downloadable food lists, monthly food demos, and we can even have a registered dietitian answer your questions on nutrition and weight loss. Our members form a community with other like-minded people to help support each other on their health journey. If you are seeking a way to stay motivated throughout your health journey with our method in mind, try signing up for the Millennial Living Membership Program for the first 2 weeks free by signing up on our website at themillennialnutritionist.com. Like, what do you feel like helped you to navigate like those that you're changing schedule all the time?
Yeah, it was definitely challenging because I had, like, 2 jobs, and then I switched to 1 job, and then I was doing some other things. So I guess just, like, figuring out the things that were really important and then prioritizing those, and then, being flexible about the other things, like making sure I'm getting 10,000 steps in, and then my protein and produce were really important. But like the times a day that I was eating was like less important than that. So just knowing like what I needed to focus on was really helpful.
Okay, good. So not being
Yeah,
so strict about like every little thing, but knowing that you should probably be a little stricter about like at least getting in the steps and at least like getting in the
yeah,
produce, but not being like it all has to happen before 5 or it all needs to happen at this time of the day or anything like that. Is that what you're saying?
yeah.
Good. Good. How did you keep yourself organized with that? Because that's another thing a lot of other people really struggle with, like when they have a schedule like that, is being like, well, I just didn't have time to like get the produce. And so I just like didn't end up eating it. But you did really well with that. So what did you do that you feel like that helped you with that?
Just a lot of planning.
Mhm.
And like I have a weekly planner where I would write down my basic meals and stuff, and then as we went through the program, it got easier just because I knew, like, how much food to buy at the beginning of the week, and then, like, at the beginning, I would like, towards the end of the week, it would be hard because I would run out of, like, produce and stuff, but,
Mhm.
yeah, just realizing how much I needed to buy and then, knowing how to plan it, so planning.
Planning, good, okay, and did your planning
Yeah.
take place, like, every morning, or was it, like, every weekend, or when did you do that?
Kinda the night before each day.
Okay,
Yeah, and then, like, at the beginning of the week, planning the week, and then, like, the night before, just kinda at least thinking through my basic schedule for the next day, like, what I was gonna eat and stuff, so just kind
good.
of mentally thinking through the next step. It wasn't always, like, a set time I would plan everything, but just kinda being aware of, like, what is next.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and I find that's one thing a lot of people struggle with before working with us is they're just really not aware of what they're eating, and then planning, I think, also helps you to be aware, so I definitely
Mhm.
agree with that. Did the planning look like like, how would that help you? Did it help you, like did you, like, pack your meals or just allow you to be like, "Well, I shouldn't, like, eat, like, this huge plate of pasta right now because I know, like, I need to get my produce in later on, and if I don't now, then I won't," or what did the planning really help you with, do you think?
portion sizes, packing a supper, lunch for work the next day.
Mm.
Um, or like, oh, I have to leave super early tomorrow, so I should probably prep my smoothie tonight, and my lunch and dinner. So yeah, just kind of everything, knowing like what I need to do to like set myself up for success for the next meal for the next day.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. I hope all of our current clients are listening to that because I think that's a really underrated habit that we don't like specifically put in the program, but we do kind of help people figure out. But if you are an
Right.
inherent planner, I think it definitely works out better.
Yeah.
Um, Moving through kind of the next steps of the program. So next we normally move on to like protein, which I think you are already set with, and then looking at produce. And then looking at exercise. As we went along those steps, did anything surprise you, or what do you feel like you had to work on, if anything, with those?
I guess I was running a lot. Like, as I love to run and I did a half marathon, so I was training for that. And then I was just kind of putting a lot of pressure on like getting to 60 miles a week or 50 or
Mhm,
whatever. And then, but I was still like gaining weight like before the program. And
mhm.
so during the program, I was like, well, I might as well try like something different. So I
Yeah.
just switched to walking and prioritized weightlifting instead. And that was really eye opening to see like how effective that was. So I'm excited about that. And like I still love to run, but just realizing like weightlifting and like overall steps are really helpful. So yeah.
Great, great. Yeah, and I see that with a lot of clients. A lot of cardio can cause people to gain weight. Other people can lose weight. It kind of
Yeah.
depends. But what do you feel like you were doing before that caused you to gain weight with it, if you know?
I don't really know. I guess just the overall calories
Mhm.
and sugar probably and stress. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I agree. A lot of times, like extra cardio too can make you really hungry. And so it's
Mhm.
hard to stay within a calorie deficit if you're really hungry. You shouldn't be hungry. And so that's why I do just swapping out running for steps is sometimes more ideal, but it sometimes can take up more time, right? Because it like takes twice the amount of time. So with your crazy schedule, how did you fit in all of that new exercise?
I would wake up a little earlier and go
Mhm.
for a walk. I tried a couple different weight training like programs till I found one that I really liked.
Mhm.
Um, I heard a quote a couple years ago that I keep in mind about like planning out your life. It was like over prepare, then go with the flow. So just like over preparing my like mind for like, oh, this is when I'm gonna do my exercise and stuff. But then like if the day changes, then just kind of go with it and like do your best. Like, oh, that's okay. Like I didn't get in my steps today, but I got pretty close and tomorrow I'll probably go over. So yeah, just planning and making it happen.
Yeah, I love that. I feel like I do that too. I like try to prepare the best of my ability, but then because then if something happens, like, well, I literally did all I could. So there just it is what it is. And then I think if you try hard enough on the other days and it'll all work out, like you say, like if you
Yeah.
at least are trying to get in steps every day, like if you don't hit it like 1 or 2 days, then at least the other days will compensate. But I think I heard you say too, like just making sure you wake up in the morning and then like plan around everything else. Is that right?
And just getting after it, like making it happen. Like,
Mhm.
oh, I'm so tired, but like really need to get a workout in, so that's what I'm gonna do. And learning to like I really love exercise, so that part
Yeah.
was not like as challenging as other things. So that was helpful.
And then with the strength training, did you do that at home? Did you go to the gym or how did you do that?
A combination of different things. I love to strength train because that was like a big part of our cross country training growing
Mhm.
up. So yeah, I went to Planet Fitness for a little bit. I did some at home workouts. Right now I'm doing at home workouts with some dumbbells and stuff, and that's been really fun. So yeah, just trying out like what I enjoy and like what I feel like is challenging my body.
Okay, good, good. So it sounds like you had like a pretty open mind or real flexible a lot about it. A
Mhm.
lot of times some clients are really like a perfectionist about it and then it causes them to not do super well because they're so worried they're going to do it wrong, but it sounds like you just were like at least I just need to try it and go from here. And then what about like produce and protein? So do you feel like you were already doing that? Did you have to make any changes there, or what did that look like when we started working together?
Well, I listened to one of your podcasts too during that time, and I don't know if you said it during that or during one of our sessions, but just like trying like one new vegetable per week. And so
Mhm.
I've been doing that, and that's been really fun just to see like, oh, vegetables are really like tasty, and you can make it really fun. So yeah, I really love cucumbers and beets and stuff like that. Where I wasn't really thinking about vegetables before the program. I was just
Mhm.
thinking about like the number on the scale or like why isn't it going down, but not
Right.
really thinking about the process. So now it's kind of like, oh, I know like vegetables are super good, so good for me. So just trying different ones and like a broad range of colors. So I know I'm getting a good nutritional balance. So yeah, pretty cool.
Yeah. And then you did so many. You were getting in like what, like 7 to 10 or something like that. How did you do that?
I don't know. Well, I put a lot of spinach in my morning smoothie, so that takes care of like
Oh, gotcha.
3, and then fruit, like I've been eating a ton of watermelon.
Yeah.
Um, so you can eat a lot of that, and then yeah, I don't know. I just like them. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's awesome. I feel like I hear you saying like that you were before kind of just worried about the result, but never thinking about like the process that it takes to get there. But now you have a greater appreciation for like all of the steps that it actually takes to get to the lower number on the scale. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah.
Good, good. How, like, did it make you feel any better, like, or feel any different, like, eating more produce or not really?
Oh yeah, for sure.
How did it feel different or what did it do for you, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's really filling, and then eating vegetables and fruit is really filling, and then yeah, I just feel better overall, opposed to like eating an almond flour brownie or having like half of that and then a side of vegetables and fruit
Right.
feels a lot better. So, yeah.
Yeah, because you can eat so many more for the same amount of calories as, like, something that's very
Yeah.
small, and that's why it's a really good, food to work in, and it's something that doesn't get talked about frequently with other diet plans because, I mean, like, I'm not making any money from, like, promoting produce because there's not really any money in it, and there's not really for other companies either, but it's, I think, a huge underdog when it comes to weight loss, is not eating enough of it. And then the protein you already had down, right? Like, we didn't really have to work on that. Is that right? Or maybe even you were eating too much of it. We kinda had to negotiate some calories there.
Yeah, that wasn't really a problem.
And then as far as, like, the biggest accomplishments with your journey, I think the first thing when I thought of you was, yeah, I agree, like, less emotional eating. So tell me what you feel like you've done with that because that's really hard. I honestly wanna say for almost every single one of my clients, like, because we know what to do, but a lot of times what gets in the way is emotions, and we're all, I feel like,
Mhm.
just raised to, like, eat a cookie when we've had a bad day, and that, like, manifests into a worse situation when we're older and we have, like, all the money to actually buy, like, 10 cookies and eat it all at one time, you know? So, what do you feel like helped you to get over this that other people need to hear?
I guess like I'm still kind of working on it,
Yeah.
honestly,
Mhm.
but just being aware of it was really helpful.
Good.
Like in kind of questioning like, oh, why do I really want to eat that ice cream? Like, is it because I'm sad or not? And so like just being aware that like I'm doing that really helped. And then having a plan instead to do, like drink some water and go for a walk or like
Yeah.
call a friend
Good.
or do something just to distract yourself, was really helpful. But yeah, it's something I'm still working on, but being aware of it was really helpful.
Yeah, because like we said, like, I feel like you already like, you like produce, you liked
Yeah.
exercise. It was just little tweaks, but I think it did seem
Mhm.
like in the beginning, there were more episodes of you eating just, like, a lot of calories one day, and then it got a lot better by the end, and so I
Mhm.
feel like yeah, I think that's, like, the same thing as what I noticed, what you just said, like, just finding those other coping mechanisms. I remember sometimes you'd message me your wins were like, "I had this hard day, but instead of
Yeah.
eating, I went for a walk or I tried to call a friend or even thought about like journaling or something like that, which just really helps because we don't want to have those emotions not be recognized, but it's not really going to help with weight loss if we're overeating. And so I agree. I think that those were really good things that you did and that I hope other people kind of do too. And I don't think it's ever going to be an ending journey, like even for myself. I mean, we all get emotions and we're not very good at figuring out like how to regulate them and everybody has like their negative coping mechanisms, but it's just like trying to find good ones. But for you, you said the walking helped and like trying to call
Mhm.
friends. Is that right? Because everybody has different methods.
Walking, calling someone, even, like, taking a hot shower or a cold
Oh,
shower, just, like, changing what I'm doing, and then journaling for sure,
okay.
and just realizing that, like, it's not like, journaling or drinking water isn't as fun as, like, eating, but
Right.
but, like, eating isn't gonna help anything get better, like, it's
Mhm.
just gonna make you feel worse. At least for me, it just, like, makes me feel worse, and then, like, I still have to deal with, like, whatever, I was stressed out about, so, like, I might as well just handle it or, find a healthier way to deal with it, so
Exactly. Like you said, it like seems like it's so much better in the moment if you can just like eat something sweet, but
yeah,
then you feel bad about yourself and you still have the problem. So it's like it never really does work, but simple to say,
yeah.
but hard to practice. So that's awesome that you're able to kind of work through that. I think another thing that I noticed we worked on was eating more of like a variety because you definitely
Mhm.
loved your vegetables, but you would eat like a lot of broccoli all at once instead of like just separating it out. And we want to do that for we get different vitamins and minerals. Get different types of fiber, which help with our microbiome, our gut health.
Mhm.
What do you feel like you did there? That's like a tangible tip for somebody else who is struggling with this too, like only eating like a couple different types and needing to make more bigger variety.
Yeah, just trying different ones, like, one new thing per week,
Mhm.
or, like, at least for me, I was like, "Oh, I don't wanna, like, pay for a whole, like, box of, like, onions or whatever if I'm not gonna like them," but just, like, buying one and then trying it and then or bell peppers. Like, I never really liked bell peppers, but I tried it one week and then just kinda, like, forced myself, and then it was actually pretty good, so, I don't know, just making up your mind to try something new and just knowing that it's gonna benefit your body really helps.
Maybe not buying like a whole bunch of it, but just buying one to
Mhm.
sample and seeing how it goes. Is that right?
Yeah.
Was there anything that you didn't like, or did you like everything you tried so far?
I was in the bell pepper section. I bought a jalapeno pepper, like a pretty big one, and I added like a bunch of it to a salad and it was like way too hot. I still liked it though. So I don't know. I haven't really found anything I really don't like. I don't really like kale, but yeah.
Gotcha, gotcha. Yeah, I don't love it either. I like it in a smoothie. I like it. I feel like if I go to a restaurant, I feel like restaurants always make it better in like a salad. But to
Yeah.
me, I like hate it just like at home. Um, what is your pattern for kind of getting in produce? Because a lot of my clients struggle with this, with like the timing of getting produce in, because you normally have to prep it, not being able to find foods to eat it with. Like, how do you get it
Mhm.
in with all of your meals? Like, you can even kind of give like a sample day of eating for yourself of how you get it in, just because I think it'd be a good idea for clients to know.
Well, like this week, I got a bunch of cucumbers and a watermelon and spinach. And so, like, after I went grocery shopping, I just chopped up all the cucumbers and portioned it into baggies
Hmm.
of like 2 or 3 cup portions, and then the same thing with the watermelon. So then they're like ready to go for the week. And so, or at least for the majority of the week. And then when I'm like prepping my lunch for the next day, I can just pull it out of the fridge and put it into my container or whatever in my salad. So just prepping ahead of time or at least having it available really helps.
And
Mhm.
then like prepping it even to the extent of like going ahead and like distributing it into like to go bags is what helped you. Is that right?
Yeah, and I don't always have time to, like, portion it out ahead of time, but at least just, like, doing my best with, like, the time that I have or whenever I do have time to prep it, then using that effectively. And then, like, spinach, I found is really easy to put in my morning smoothie, so I can put, like, 3 cups of that in, and it doesn't, like, change the whole taste of the smoothie, which is really nice.
Okay, okay, yeah, yeah. I always tell people, like, if you're having a smoothie, you might as well put in some spinach in there because I don't feel like it does anything except make it green, but it's kind of cool
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah, it's kind of a gross color, but
Yeah.
it still tastes good.
Yeah, and you're getting a lot of fiber, and that's awesome.
Yeah.
The last thing that I was thinking of that I think was the biggest change for you was changing up exercise. So we kind of already hit on
Mm.
this, more strength and less walking. What do you feel like this did for you? Like, did you feel any changes? I mean, I know you had amazing weight loss with it. But like, how did that feel? Because a lot of people are really scared that come to me who love their cardio, and that's really hard for them to like
Mhm.
do away with that. So maybe they need to hear like a pep talk of like how it helped you.
I was just very into running and,
Right.
like, making sure I hit a number of miles, and if I didn't get my run in that day, I would be, like, freaking out because like, I didn't burn enough calories or whatever, but, just kinda chilling and, like, relaxing and being like, "It's gonna be okay," and just telling myself I was gonna try something new really helped, and I tried the walking, and, I just realized, like, my overall stress level went down.
Oh,
I don't
okay.
know, like, how the whole, like, psychology of it or whatever, but it was, like, a easier goal than a lot more running, so, yeah, I just saw that it worked, and, like, the more that I saw it work, the more, like, trust I had in, like, walking versus running, so I would say just try something new. Like, if what you're doing isn't working, then don't be afraid to try something else.
Right, exactly, and not just
Yeah.
like, give up and say like, it's not gonna
Yeah.
work for me, so I'm not gonna try anything."
Yeah.
So how did you get in your 10,000 steps? So like, what do you have like a magic formula? Like, do you walk all in the morning? Do you break it up? Are you active during the day? Like, how does that work specifically for you?
Just whenever I have time. Like, ideally, in the morning, I would go for, like, a 30-minute walk. Like, this morning, I went for a 30-minute walk and then did strength training.
Mhm.
And then at night, if I still have, like, some steps, if I'm only at, like, 7,000 or whatever, then I'll just go for another walk and, like, listen to a podcast or something. Or if I have more time in the morning, then maybe I'll go for a longer walk, and then not have to think about it later in the day.
Okay.
So yeah, it's not like a magic formula, but just kinda checking in where I'm at during the day, and then, like, checking the weekly average too. Like, at one point, I was getting, like, way over
Mhm.
10,000 every day. Like, one day I got, like, 3,300 or whatever,
Oh my gosh,
or
1,000.
I I don't even know, but, yeah, and then we talked about, like, maybe decreasing that because
Yeah.
it was, like, too much, and that was really helpful too, so I would, towards the end of the week, check out how many steps I would need the last 2 days to get closer to the 10,000 opposed to, like, too much, so and I think it depends on, like, what job I'm doing too, like, if my job is really active at the time, then I don't have to worry about it as much, but
Again, it goes back to planning, but it sounds like I do hear you saying, like, trying to find, like, one large chunk of time to walk somewhere in the day is what you kinda needed, and then filling in the rest by the end of the week and just seeing what you need.
yeah, yeah, for
Okay.
sure.
Okay. Do you feel like there's any other big accomplishments that I'm missing, that you wanted to, share about, or do you feel like that's, like, kinda sums it up what I noticed?
I guess just, like, being able to help other people with,
Oh,
like, knowing
yeah.
what they're doing too is really cool.
Uh-huh.
Just to see people at work would notice me eating cucumbers or celery or whatever, and then that would inspire them to bring vegetables, and, they would have little, like, cucumber parties or whatever.
No
Um,
way.
yeah. And, or people would ask me like, "Oh, do you have any advice for, like, protein snacks or something? Because I always see you're eating really healthy." So, just being able to help people like that was really cool.
Mhm.
Um, and then just having more confidence in, like, knowing how nutrition works. So, I'm really thankful that I got to work with you. It was really awesome.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I know that made me, like, such a happy dietitian when you were able to, like, help your coworkers, and then it always makes it easier when, like, other people around you are also eating healthy because there's that less peer pressure, you're not, like, missing out. That's awesome that you were able to do that. And then tell us kinda what's been happening now. So we finished what, like, a month and a half ago or 2 months
Mhm.
ago-ish? How do you feel like you were different from before you were working with me versus the end? Like, what do you think
Mhm.
would, like, how did you change, do you think?
Oh, yeah, I mean, it's a big change. I'm just a lot more confident making decisions
Mhm.
about food. Like I last week went on like a week-long vacation to Ohio to visit
Uh-huh.
some friends. Yeah, I was like kind of nervous about it, but I just knew what to do. Like when I got there, I went to the store and got like some vegetables that would be easy to eat, like baby carrots, and then like a couple of protein sources, and was able to like fuel myself. Where in the past I would have been like over stressing about like details that weren't really like needed. So yeah, just like a lot more confidence. And yeah, I'm just very thankful that I got to work with you because it was such a big like nutrition is such a big part of life.
Right.
So it was really worth it to me to put some work into that. So, yeah, thanks.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so you said just, like, increased confidence, which I hear a lot from clients in the beginning is, like, that anxiety of, like, never knowing what the right choice is. Then it's like they end up just, like, giving up
Mhm.
anyway. But you said just it sounds like making these, like, small little tweaks and just, like, affirming what you're already doing and maybe, like, fixing a couple little things helped you to know, like, how to navigate every situation. Is that right?
Yeah. Oh, I guess one more thing would be, like, just having more of a long-term approach.
Mm.
Like, okay, like, where do I wanna be in 5 years? Or, like, what's really gonna be beneficial? Like, eating vegetables isn't that fancy, but over the long term, I feel like will be a lot more beneficial than, like, some kinda fancy powder or something, so
Yes, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, that's what I tried to tell people. I'm like I think that's what I told you too, like, when we left, I was like, "I know you love nutrition, but, this food is a little boring, so maybe find another hobby." Because then, like, I can be
Yeah.
victim to it too, because it's like you get on social media and it's like this world girl is like, "Oh, drink this, like, fancy smoothie," and it's like, "Oh, I wanna do that," and then you end up creeping back into, like, all this diet culture stuff, so I think,
Yeah.
like you said, like, it's the boring stuff works, so maybe just find another
Mhm.
hobby besides always, like, nutrition stuff. But what about now after being done? What are you doing to, like, maintain everything now without having us? Because some people do worry, like, "Well, what do you mean, like, it's
Mhm.
only 3 months? Like, I need more than that." Like, what is life looking like for you now? How are you able to maintain all the things that we worked on?
Like, honestly, your program makes it so simple and, like, it builds so gradually that it hasn't really been a problem, like, I've just kinda kept it going.
Mhm.
Like, I'm definitely working more on, like, my plate
Okay.
opposed to, like, just tracking,
Yeah.
and so I'm getting more and more, like, confident with doing that instead of, like, tracking every calorie. Um,
Good.
so yeah, it's been pretty easy transition, honestly.
Awesome. Okay. And
Yeah.
then what helps you from like slipping back into old habits of like going back to the almond flour brownies or going back to the like emotional eating like because you're on your own with it now. What are
Yeah.
you doing to make sure you don't slip back into that? Or if you have, like what does it look like to bounce back again?
I have slipped back a couple times, like, where I've overeaten and but hasn't really happened that much, and it's so much easier to bounce back now knowing that, like, I have a good system for eating or, like, I know what works. So, yeah, it's just overall better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I feel like you're saying that, like, you know what matters. Like, it's not worth
Mhm.
freaking out over one day of overeating because now you know the science behind it. You know what actually works because you were consistent with it for 3 months and still had those moments where you overate. And so you're able to just kind of get back to what you're doing as opposed to like spiraling out of control.
Right. Yeah.
Good, good. For those who are kind of struggling on their own and wanting to lose weight and listening to this episode as some inspiration, what are some top recommendations or tips you have? Even like thinking about maybe like yourself 4 or 5 months ago, like what are some tips that you can give them?
Just, like, don't give up.
Mhm.
Like, I don't know, at least when I didn't know what I was doing with nutrition, it was, like felt kinda hopeless or like, "Oh, I'm never gonna, like, know, how to lose weight or whatever," but just, like, don't give up because, like, you're worth it, like, putting in that effort to, like, make yourself feel your best, and then, like, for me, my motivation was, like, I wanna be my best to help others, and, like, I don't wanna have to think about my own nutrition needs, like, as my main like, taking up a lot of my thoughts, so,
Yeah.
just, like, don't give up until you find something that works for you,
Mhm.
and, like, working with a professional and, like, working with the right professional really helps, like you guys. So, yeah, I would recommend your program.
Oh, thanks so much. Yeah, or I even say too, like any dietitian or like just making sure you look into their program, at least just not like finding somebody who just lost weight themselves and then are like, well, I can help you do it too. Cause there's not a one size fits all. Cause me and you don't even eat the same. Like I can't tell everybody eat the
Yeah,
way that I eat and to live the way that I live. You have to figure out to understand the science and be able to translate it in a way that's going to work for everyone, which we were able to do for you as well. But it's definitely a two-way street. So you also had to give your part and not give up. But that's awesome.
yeah,
I think that was all really, really informative. I hope that people really glean a lot from this episode and take away some tangible tips. But thank you so much for coming on today, Hannah, and letting me ask you and pick your brain about what really worked for you.
thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for listening to the Millennial Nutritionist podcast. For daily weight loss tips and nutrition information, you can find us on Instagram at the.millennial.nutritionist and on TikTok at millennial.nutritionist. If you find this information helpful, please subscribe to the podcast and share it with a friend who needs encouragement on their health journey. See you in the next episode.